Hey everybody, it is me, Vincent, and welcome back to another VincentVision. Watch out! Epic Universe has opened its gates to the world, and now hundreds upon thousands of people will be visiting Universal's newest park each day to experience the many amazing attractions waiting for them. Things like jumping from track to track on Minecart Madness in Super Nintendo World, or getting up close and personal with Toothless the Dragon in Isle of Berk. There are so many incredible experiences waiting for people around every corner. There's been lots of praise about this park already, but two rides have been getting lots of attention from theme park fans. Both Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, and Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry have both received nothing but high praise and have both, many times, been referred to as the best ride at Epic Universe, and sometimes the best ride in the world. But for the sake of this video, there can be only one. In this video, I want to compare Monsters Unchained versus Battle at the Ministry, the two most acclaimed attractions in the park, and try to figure out which one is truly the best. I want to talk through what makes these attractions great and not so great, and see if we can figure out which of these two e-tickets bring the epic to Epic Universe. We're going to start this video off with what is the most sought after ride in the park, Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. It's sought after because, like any new Harry Potter ride at Universal, more often than not, it's going to have the longest wait time in the park all day. On the grand opening day of Epic Universe, people made a mad dash, literally sprinting through the park to be one of the first to ride, and in like a couple of minutes, the line shot up to a 300-minute wait. This is all for good reason though, because this ride is easily one of the most grand and impressive theme park rides I have ever experienced. Everything about this ride is big. The ride vehicle, the show scenes, the screens, the queue. This ride runs a size extra large and ends up being the most large-scale Harry Potter ride at Universal, even more than Hogwarts. The true magic of Harry Potter at Universal is that every version of it has improved from the previous one. 1920s Paris is a larger, wider, more spacious version of Diagon Alley, and the Battle at the Ministry improves on the experience that makes Escape from Gringotts so popular. You know, the Gringotts experience is so well received, not just because of the ride, but everything leading up to it. Walking through the queue, the bank lobby, the elevator lift taking you down into the vaults, all of that really immerses you into the adventure that you're about to go on. Battle at the Ministry does the same thing, but like 5 times bigger. You get a much longer, more detailed queue. You travel from Paris to London with the super cool Metro Flu, which is such a crowd pleaser. And of course, the actual atrium of the Ministry of Magic itself. Hands down, the most impressive indoor space that Universal has ever created. That is not a debate. The scale, the perspective, the wow moment people get when they cross through the Flu into the lobby for the first time. This is an essential Epic Universe experience, and if you could only see or do one thing at Epic, this might be part of the conversation. Universal knows that people want to see this so much that the single rider's line for this ride also serves as a Ministry viewing queue just to go in and see the atrium. Now, I could spend a lot of time gushing about the queue for this ride, but we need to actually start talking about the ride itself. Like with all of the major Harry Potter rides, Universal is always pushing the boundaries on brand new theme park tech. Forbidden Journey had the Kuka arm, Gringotts with its super unique roller coaster track and ride vehicles, Hagrid's with its drop track, and Ministry with its, well, it's kind of hard to explain. The easiest way that I've found to describe the ride vehicle is that it's a motion simulator similar to Spider-Man or Transformers, but the vehicle itself is about 15-20 feet up in the air and moves in a way to make you feel like you're floating around. You sit in a big elevator, or Ministry lift as they'd call it, kind of like Tower of Terror, and you're boxed in and pointed towards different scenes throughout the ride. I'm a little bit mixed on the ride vehicle, honestly, because I do like some things about it. The thing is big, and when it pulls up to the station, you can't help but get the feeling that you're about to go on a big deal ride, you know? The ride vehicle also has a lot of power. It whips around corners on this ride in ways that you don't expect a big elevator like this to do. But on the other side of the coin, it doesn't do the one thing you kind of expect an elevator ride to do, which is rise and fall. There is one part, like right at the beginning of the ride, where you get jolted upwards and it kind of sells the sensation that you're on a lift, but the ride never does the thing that I want it to do the most, which is drop. This ride is all about floating through the Ministry, and I wish there were more moments on the ride that had like a slight free fall. And I'm not expecting a 100-foot drop like the Tower of Terror or anything like that, but maybe some little dips, kind of like Rise of the Resistance over at Disney World. That, in my opinion, would really hike up the thrill level on a ride like this, and in a good way. But then again, that might not be the intent of the ride experience. I also suspect that this ride which has a habit of breaking down, causing extra long lines throughout the day, probably can't handle the strain of these super complex ride vehicles doing such extreme motions like free falling. Oh well, perhaps my biggest ding that I'd have to give Battle at the Ministry is the fact that this ride is the king of Universal screen rides. During previews, before people were able to experience the Ministry ride, it was really exciting to see Epic Universe be a park with almost no screen-based rides in the park. It really felt like Universal had listened to guest feedback about screens and wanted to do something different for the brand new park. Turns out, every single screen at Epic Universe exists inside the Battle at the Ministry ride. And I should say that these screens are incredible. They are the best, most high-def screens I've seen used on any ride. They are very similar to the LED screens used at the Bourne Stuntacular, where they blur the line perfectly between what's real and what's not. This is shown perfectly in the scenes when you're floating through the Ministry archives, which, by the way, has two of the most impressive animatronics that I've ever seen on a ride. The Death Eaters that are in this scene have such lifelike movement that they might as well just be actors who are stationed there and have to do the same motions over and over again. They look that good. In the time room, or whatever it is, where the characters are fighting between the pillars, is a really good mixture of physical and screen, which I was kind of hoping the ride would have a little bit more of. The first scene of the ride puts you like 5 feet away from a screen, which I think is going to get a lot of people sick. And then the next scene, which to me is kind of the biggest offense on this ride, is when you meet Harry and the gang and then Dolores Umbridge breaks out and the ride starts. The characters are on a screen inside a physical elevator and you see that scene play out 3 different times. 4 if you include the ending of the ride. To me, it really feels like a really lazy way to set up the story of the ride, and you've basically wasted a minute of precious ride time to show me the same trick 3 times in a row. And let's not talk about the uncanny valley of these body double characters playing the main trio. I think everyone knows that Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson don't really want anything to do with the Harry Potter franchise, so seeing these weird, almost AI-looking deepfakes all throughout the ride is an instant red flag that something is off, and honestly takes me out of the experience every time. Imelda Staunton reprises her role as Umbridge, and she is awesome on the ride. And I was kind of hoping to see George Harris, the actor who plays Kingsley Shacklebolt, be the one to take us through the Ministry. I can only assume he returned in some way to help record dialogue for the ride, so I was kind of hoping maybe he'd have more like scenes in the Ministry. I just think people connect better with a real person on screen. That's why it's Bill Weasley leading you through Gringotts and not fake Harry Potter. It's just a better performance, and I think people can tell when someone's real and when someone's not. And my last little feedback for the Ministry ride is the plot. I'm a big fan of epilogues. I love the idea of seeing things happening after the main story has played out. So going to the trial of Dolores Umbridge, one of the most hated characters in fiction, is perfect and is so satisfying. Also, having an adventure through the Ministry of Magic lends itself to a lot of fun. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different places you can visit in the Ministry. So I wish we got to see a little bit more of it, or even revisited some recognizable places, like the Department of Mysteries with its endless hall of crystal balls. And I know it was destroyed, but I don't know, maybe it got rebuilt and it'd just be a cool thing to see while you're on the ride. And lastly, I need to talk about the climax of this ride, where Umbridge destroys a time turner and ends up flying through the sands of time with Harry and Ron capturing her. And I don't think anything as crazy as that has ever happened in the Harry Potter story. To me, if I was Harry Potter, flying through the sands of time to catch Umbridge would be crazier than fighting Voldemort, okay? That is like insane. I just find it so funny that the craziest thing that has ever happened in the Harry Potter timeline happens on a ride at Universal. Despite my complaints though, it is clear that Universal had the word epic in mind when creating the Battle at the Ministry. A lot of money, time, and effort was put into creating this attraction, this experience, and it really does end up becoming Universal's Rise of the Resistance, where the grandeur of the sets and the incredible technology on display makes this ride a must-do experience at Universal Orlando. And also, Higgledy, the house elf, is great. We love Higgledy. Across the way from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is the Dark Universe, home to another big ride in the park, Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment. The Monsters Ride. Monsters Unchained is an attraction that had a lot of hype leading up to the park's opening. This was the ride it seemed Universal was most excited to talk about, and we got some pretty hyped up promo stuff, including a video showcasing the animatronics on this ride. So when park previews started happening in March and April, this ride was on the top of the list for must-dos, and it did not disappoint. Ministry wasn't open during this time, so because of that, Monsters was the top dog at the park, and would often have some pretty long lines, but the demand was well deserved, because Monsters ended up being the strong first impression that people needed to see to understand that Epic Universe would be a world-class park. Something that I think excites Universal fans about Monsters Unchained is the fact that it is a Universal story. All the Harry Potter rides at Universal are great, same thing with Super Nintendo World. These are two really impressive lands, but to me, it's kind of obvious that both Nintendo and Warner Brothers were heavily involved with the creation of these areas, and because of that, you can get the sense that Universal is coming up with this stuff on a leash. They're doing it the way that Nintendo and Warner Brothers want it done. The Unchained in Monsters Unchained symbolizes the freedom that Universal has in getting to tell their story of the monsters in the way that they want it. And turns out that freedom allowed them to create one of the best rides in the park. The park preview days were interesting because even if people had 100 negative things to say about the park, no one ever said anything bad about Monsters Unchained. This attraction, from top to bottom, queue to ride experience is truly one of Universal's finest work. I always thought that you knew a ride was going to be good when the ride starts before you even get on it. Think of the Tower of Terror at Hollywood Studios. You can see the Hollywood Tower Hotel before you even step foot in the park, and it takes up space in your mind all day. Oh man, look at that thing, I gotta go ride that. Or, oh god, they're gonna make me ride that at some point, I'm not sure if I can do it. A good ride starts making its impression on you before you even do it. And as soon as you see Frankenstein Manor at the end of Darkmoor Village, you just know that it's the big deal ride here in this area of the park. I'd say that Ministry actually is kind of the opposite, where unlike Hogwarts or Gringotts, you don't really get the sense of scale or importance of the ride from standing outside of it. I mean, if it wasn't for social media or word of mouth, would the average guest know that the big Harry Potter ride was in there? With Frankenstein Manor, you know that you're gonna see some monsters inside that building. The queue for this ride is pretty amazing as well. It's dark, spooky, a little too scary for kids, and loaded with loving references to the Universal monster movies that the land is based off, while still providing important clues and context to what's happening in the world that we've stepped into. Every corner of this line is either giving you a nod to the classic monsters or providing you with info about who Victoria Frankenstein is and what she's trying to do, which to me is a very impressive feat. It also doesn't hurt that the pre-show is quick, entertaining, and does a very good job at introducing us to the key players of Monsters Unchained, with Igor, Victoria, the monster, and Count Dracula. We also get the massive 9-foot-tall monster animatronic, which is a sight to behold every single time. Then we make our way onto the ride itself, getting on a catacombs navigation unit, which is pretty much the Kuka arm technology from Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. The big difference between this one and the Hogwarts ride is that the axis is under the riders versus behind them, so the vehicle is able to move in a lot more unique ways on Monsters Unchained. The rider seats also aren't boxed in, which allows you to look around a lot more, which brings me to the key difference of this ride compared to FJ, which is that this is a physical, animatronic-heavy ride experience with very little screens. Hallelujah! There are about 14 different animatronics on this ride that you get up close and personal with, and for a lot of theme park fans, that is going to shoot this ride up to the top of their list. I remember the first time I rode this ride and my jaw dropped when we pulled up to the Phantom of the freaking Opera playing his organ with fire shooting out, and throughout the rest of the ride, it never went back up. The Wolfman scene is also so great with a face-in-face encounter where he slobbers all over you and then he's up above you swiping at you, the mummy hanging above you, Dracula breaking out of his containment. This whole ride is filled with so many memorable moments that people are going to be talking about as soon as they get off the ride. I'm also a big fan of this ride's story, and how even though there's a lot of love and respect for the original Universal monsters throughout the ride and the land, this is still an original story with great characters, an easy to understand plot, and for a lot of people, especially kids, this is probably going to be their first encounter with the classic monsters. I want to see more of these characters. I want to see them interact with each other more often, and I'm hoping that future expansions to the Dark Universe allow us to get that. You can probably get the idea by this point in the video that I really enjoy the Monsters ride, but it's not without its share of flaws. The first one isn't really that big of a deal because the final product is pretty amazing, but I was always kind of hoping that this ride would be a little scarier. It was hyped up to be this scary PG-13 ride, and I was really hoping that we would be getting something along the lines of like Alien Encounter in a brand new ride. I wanted more moments of pitch black darkness and monsters whispering behind my ear. What the ride ends up being is a high-paced action adventure with some spooky moments, which I think ultimately works better as an experience in the park that more people will want to ride. Luckily for me though, I do think it's scary enough where younger kids will still probably be afraid to ride this. A much bigger ding I have against this ride is that there are more than a few moments where you're either seen or being pointed directly at backstage parts of the building, which can pull you out of the experience for a little bit. And look, I'm not a sightline snob by any means. I understand that the entire building can't be themed to a catacomb. There has to be spots and places that techs and engineers can access the ride, right? But there are some scenes on this ride where the lights from previous rooms or the super bright and crisp LED screens reveal the warehouse building ceiling or the black curtains above you, most notably on the second half of the ride. I try to give it a little bit of a pass because I know it's light bleeding from different scenes and it might be hard to control, but the one that always takes me out of it is immediately after Dracula breaks out and he blasts you away. You're pointed towards a gigantic black curtain with some hanging chains on it, and it feels weird to me that this important scene on the ride isn't fully themed. It definitely doesn't match the vibe of the concept art we were shown leading up to the park's opening. I will also say that out of the maybe, 20 or 30 times that I've been on the ride, I have never once gotten a ride where every single animatronic was working. I've gotten close. I've been able to see the elusive finale Dracula getting close to the vehicle and then get blasted by the daylight beam, but even then, I couldn't tell if it was fully going or not, because I've only ever seen it go once. I worry that this particular Dracula may be this ride's Yeti, where most riders will never get to see it how it was intended. And that's the problem with a big ride like this, right? More than a dozen animatronics, and each of them are important to the ride experience. So many moving parts on this ride, I worry that it'll be hard to maintain all these animatronics at the pace and the power that they're going. And maybe this is why a lot of modern rides try to avoid using so many animatronics. Maybe that's why the Ministry is mostly screens. They're easier to maintain, and many of the big ride moments play out on those screens, so riders will always see them. But on the flip side, I think that theme park fans like myself will always prefer physical experiences like Monsters, and if the ride can be properly maintained and keep all of its effects running smoothly for years to come, Monsters Unchained will remain a fan favorite at Epic Universe. So to end all this, I think I might have given away which of the two rides I prefer a little bit more. It's gotta be Monsters. But what about the general public? What about the rest of the park? I think, on paper, Battle at the Ministry is the best ride at Epic Universe. It has the most amount of money spent on it, it has some really amazing moments throughout the entire experience in the queue and on the ride, and with it being a Harry Potter ride, that's going to guarantee its popularity for decades to come. Monsters Unchained, on the other hand, will be the park's fan favorite dark ride. It gives us an original story and universe that theme park fans yearn for. It's loaded with animatronics, a feat that most modern rides don't attempt to do anymore, and it's a perfect blend of scenic and thrilling in a way that you'll want to jump right back on to experience it all over again. But of course, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Which of these two rides do you prefer? Are these even the best rides at Epic Universe? Which ones do you think? Is it Stardust Racers? That's a pretty great roller coaster. Is it Yoshi's Adventure? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching another VincentVision. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you're looking for more Universal content like this, you'll find it on my channel here. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.